Time now to debate some of the big stories of the week with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have House Minority Leader Brian King and State Senator Todd Weiler. Gentlemen, great to have you with us. As we're just a couple days away from Election Day now, let's get right into the big race, the race for U.S. Senate. Polls coming out during the week showing Senator Lee with a double-digit lead. Senator Weiler, let's start with you. Where do you assess this race as we speak?
Well, the polls seem to be breaking in Senator Lee's favor. I never thought he was in as tight of a race as some people have projected. I don't know if he's 10 points up. He hasn't acted like he's 10 points up. I do expect Senator Lee will pull out a victory.
Representative King, your thoughts on where this race stands?
Well, it's interesting that this poll that you refer to, the Emerson poll, has the highest lead for Senator Lee that I've seen in any polling at all. Other polls have had the two with just a point behind Senator Lee by his challenger. And so I think it's going to be a very close race. I think Evan McMullin has put up a good fight and he's worked hard. There's definitely been no lack of money on the part of both parties in this thing. And that's one of the things that I think is both potential for good in terms of getting your name out and having the issues aired, or for ill in the sense that you can have some very negative campaigning and very negative advertising, and I think we've seen too much of that, quite honestly.
Well, let's dig into that a little more. Record spending, no doubt about it, on this race, both by the candidates and outside PAC spending. Senator, do you see that having an impact? You talk about one mentioning you don't think it was that close anyway, but it does seem that there is some breaking in this case. So do you think those ads have anything to do with that?
Well, I do, I think, but I also think that they're somewhat canceling each other out. I mean, Evan McMullin has raised a lot of money from pro-Democratic PACs. Well, they're not all donating to his campaign, they're running ads for him. But I think that Senator Lee and the special interests of supporting him have raised a lot of questions about Evan McMullin. Most Utahns don't know really who he is or where he stands on most of the important issues.
Representative, talk more about the advertising we've seen in this race and the impact you think that it's having.
Well, look, I don't have a problem with putting up an ad to say why not only you're the best candidate, but why your opponent is not a good candidate. But you got to make these ads fact-based. You've got to be dispassionate. You can't, I think it turns people off when you have ads that are way over the top, when you are clearly sort of painting your opponent literally in dark hues and figures and using emotional language and pushing on emotional buttons for to trigger people in a way that I don't think is helpful or illuminating, and it gives people a bad taste in their mouth. You've seen some of this, I think, especially from some of the outside groups that have come in, particularly for Senator Lee. I've been noticing the degree to which they're really very, very over-the-top negative, and I think that turns people off. I'd like to see Utahns, quite honestly, for that kind of ad, whether it's for Democrats or Republicans, punish those who come into the state of Utah and try and use that kind of over-the-top negative advertising.
Let's talk about the fact that we have a race, a statewide race that we're talking about for a November election. It's been a while. Haven't done that in my career here at Channel 4, but you have to go back quite a ways, probably the 90s, to where you talk about a statewide race. So what about the impact it's having, and what does it mean for the state of Utah that we're actually in a race that appears competitive? Senator.
Well, yeah, so the last statewide election to be won by a non-Republican would be Jan Graham for Attorney General in 1996, and you know, and the Democrats haven't, you know, really been competitive in a statewide race. You know, this is an interesting dynamic because McMullin's hoping to pick up all of the Democratic vote and all of the independent vote and maybe some of the moderate Republican vote. I don't know that he's going to be successful at that, certainly not with the independents. They seem to be breaking 60% or higher nationwide towards the Republicans this cycle. And I think some of the Democrats are going to stay home because not all the Democrats were on board with this idea of kicking Cale Weston, who filed for Senate as a Democrat, to the curb. So I think some of them won't return their ballots.
That's something we talked about, Representative, right after convention when that did happen. Talk about what you expect for turnout, and will Democrats be solidly behind Evan McMullin?
Well, you're not going to get 100% of all the Democrats voting for Evan McMullin, unfortunately, in my mind. But what you will have, I think, is the great majority of Democrats voting for him. And I think, to his credit, Cale Weston has really done a great job coming out of that convention, accepting the decision, a close decision from Democrats across the state to say, we're going to keep our Democratic candidate out of the race and try to consolidate behind Evan McMullin. And Cale Weston has supported that, and he's supported other Democrats down ballot. He's worked his tail off across the state, walking in House and Senate, state Senate and state House districts. My hat's off to him. Democrats need to get behind the person who supports the U.S. Constitution this year. That's Evan McMullin, not Mike Lee.
All right, Senator, you have a little smile on your face there. Would you like to respond to that?
Well, I mean, on January 6th, Mike Lee voted to certify the election. You know, even Evan McMullin acknowledged that. I'm surprised that Representative King doesn't. So.
All right, let's move on to Constitutional Amendment A. It's on the ballot. A lot of voters possibly didn't see this coming, but it's something you and your colleagues passed to put on the ballot in the state legislature. Simply put, it would increase the limit on the total amount of money the legislature may appropriate during a session called by the legislature. Representative King, you voted for this bill to put it on the ballot, but talk about the cons. Why may someone not want to vote for this?
Well, the vote passed overwhelmingly in the legislature, and it's because it gives the legislature greater power, greater latitude to do some things in special sessions that under current law they're restricted in what they can do. I don't think it passed the Senate unanimously, the state Senate. It passed the House with only about 5 no votes. Whether the people of the state of Utah want the legislature to have more power is the question, I think, that the people who are against that constitutional amendment are raising, and that I've heard from them, and that is they say we already have too much power concentrated in the legislature. We don't need to give them more. I think that's the best argument for no on this. It is true that the great majority of legislators voted for it because they're in favor of giving themselves more power.
Senator, talk about why you supported this constitutional amendment.
Yeah, so the legislature can only call itself into special session if there's an emergency or crisis, and so maybe they want to cut more than 1% from the budget, maybe they want to spend more than 1%. Like during COVID, the federal government was sending us billion-dollar checks. Right now, if the legislature wanted to be cute, and I'm not recommending this, they could call us 5 special sessions Monday through Friday the same week and spend 5%. This just gives more flexibility for the legislature in times of crisis. And, you know, I'm a little bit neutral. I voted for it on my ballot, but, you know, this is not an end-of-the-world type of vote, but I do think it just gives some more flexibility.
All right, let's take a look at races at the state legislature. Right now, there are 17 Democrats in the House, 6 in the Senate. Representative, you lose 1 seat essentially through redistricting. How do you see it playing out? Do you like your chances to potentially gain seats or lose seats?
Well, we are going into the headwind of redistricting, as well as the headwind of a midterm election with an incumbent president from the Democrats and the House and the Senate being held by Democrats at the federal level. So there are definitely headwinds. I think that the state Senate is in pretty good shape in terms of keeping 6 Democrats in there. We've already lost 1 seat in the House because of redistricting. They just eliminated that seat with the population shift that was in place, and that was a Democratic seat. I think that if we hold our ground at 17, we'll be doing well, quite honestly.
Senator, how do you see the election playing out? Do you see any sizable shift here, or what do you see happening?
I think there could be a shift. It could go either way. Again, I think that this is. I think the Democrats may have been in a better position to pick up a seat or 2 had they had a Democrat, you know, on the U.S. Senate race and a effective get out the vote campaign. But you watch for the Claire Collard and on the Democrats, Claire Collard and
Liz Waite.
No, Liz Waite and Rosemary Lesser. Those are the 3 Democrats in the swing districts. And on the Republican side, it's Jim Dunnigan and Judy Weeks-Rohner. But the most exciting race to watch is the Steve Handy write-in campaign. And I don't know which way that's going to go.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Our guest earlier in the show, Jason Perry with the Hinckley Institute, said if Steve Handy cannot pull off this victory, probably no write-in candidate can. Your thoughts on that, Representative?
Well, Steve's a great representative. He's a good friend. I certainly, if I lived in that district, would be writing in Steve Handy's name. It's an easy name to remember, Handy, H-A-N-D-Y, and I hope people do write it in. But Steve served well. He's well known in the district. It was a tactical mistake on his part to not gather signatures so that he could get on the primary ballot. He knows that. I I'm rooting for him, but he's definitely got an uphill battle.
All right, Senator, we have about 15 seconds left. There you are.
I agree with Jason. If Steve loses, I don't think write-ins are winnable on a large basis. Maybe for a small town mayor or something. But Steve's in the perfect position to win, but that doesn't mean he will.
Yeah, we have seen smaller town mayors be successful at that recently here in the state of Utah. Gentlemen, great insight. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break. We leave you now with a look at what's on the radar in the world of politics. We've been talking about it all show. The midterm election it is this week. Mail-in ballots must be postmarked by tomorrow, then Election Day is Tuesday. Also, the general legislative session, just a few months away now. Opening day, Tuesday, January 17th. Make sure to connect with me on social media or through email. I'd like to know what you think of this show and other issues important to you. You can email me at InsideUtahPolitics@abc4.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks so much for making us part of your Sunday morning. We hope to see you again next week as we go inside Utah politics.